And so we would look, again, at trying to make the community as safe as possible.
Thank you so much. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Chair thanks the gentlewoman and recognizes the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Gowdy, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Attorney General, the central issue to me is this perception, frankly rooted in some realities of a dual-track or two-tiered justice system. And I know that you have dedicated your career to the pursuit of justice. I know you work for a blindfolded woman who's holding nothing but a set of scales. And I think it's important that she's blindfolded because she shouldn't see the race, the gender, the socioeconomic status, the fame or lack of fame of the person in front of her. And I'm sure you've experienced it like some of the rest of us. It's not just the suspect or the target or the defendant. The witnesses have to have confidence in the justice system. The jurors have to have confidence in the justice system. The public has to have confidence in the justice system. So this dual track, different set of rules for certain people than for others. It frankly should not matter whether you are running for president or running late to a kid's ball game. The same rules ought to apply to everyone. So let me ask you this. Why do you think it's important to use official email to conduct official business?
I believe it's important to do that. I think that certainly every department has chosen to craft the way in which they carry out their business, and it provides for a way of doing business in a secure system.
So you use official email to conduct official business?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And do you ever email, send or receive classified information on personal email?
I do not.
I doubt you even use your USDOJ.gov account to send classified information, do you?
We have separate systems.
Right.
So there would be a separate
classified system
for that.
Right. So not only do you not use personal email to do it, you don't even use your USDOJ.gov. You have a separate dedicated system to handle classified information. Why?
We have a separate system to handle the security needs.
But my question is why? Why is it important enough to you to not use personal email to conduct public business and to use a separate, more safely guarded system when you do handle classified information?
That is the practice that I've certainly always followed. It
but
allows
it's not
for the
just
protection.
it's not just a personal preference, is it?
No, it allows for the protection of the information, both on a regular system, because again, that's still sensitive, law enforcement types of matters, and then a classified system for separately classified information.
What element do you think was lacking in the statutes that you evaluated as it relates to Secretary Clinton?
So let me again. As I've indicated before, and I want to make it clear that, as I indicated before, while the reason why I will not be going into the analysis that was provided and the discussion that we had between myself and the team is because we protect our teams and that they have to be free to provide information and analysis in a confidential way without the fear or impact of there being a political influence on that.
I understand
and that is why I have not gone into that type of discussion. What I can tell you is that the team did evaluate the relevant statutes that were considered in this investigation. They looked at all of the facts and evidence, and as in every case, they applied them to that statute to determine whether the elements had been met. But my specific
question to you, Madam Attorney General, is what element of which offense did you find lacking from an evidentiary standpoint?
Well, I would say that in order to answer that, I would have to go into the entire level of analysis.
Well, don't you think public perception in a single-track justice system is important enough that you could at least touch on what you thought was lacking?
Congressman, in this case, we have taken the unusual step of discussing it in ways that the Department typically does not, in order to provide more clarity into this situation. And while I understand that it is frustrating to a number of people, civilians as well as members of this body alike, we have taken extraordinary steps to discuss this matter in ways that typically we do not,
Let me ask you
particularly
this.
when charges are not brought. And as I indicated before, just so it's clear, my reasons for not going into the substance of the information information that I receive and review before I made my decision to accept the recommendation are that the teams that I work with, whether it's this case or any other, be free to provide confidential analysis, discussion, without the input of any
All due
kind of
respect, Madam
political
Attorney General,
influence.
you can do all of what you just described and still tell the people what element. I mean, the elements of a criminal offense are public, so there's no secret there. And for you to go through the elements and say, as Director Comey did, he said there was no specific intent. I'm out of time, but I suspect you have prosecuted reckless homicide cases, haven't you?
In the context of violent crime.
How about involuntary manslaughter?
For the department or personally?
No, just as a prosecutor. There's involuntary manslaughter. There's reckless homicide. There's felony DUI where you really didn't mean to hurt anybody. You really didn't, but you did. And this lack of specific intent is not a defense in any of those cases. So I think the public would like to know how you determined she did not have the intent to break the law and why you are applying a specific intent requirement here when you don't even do it in certain homicide cases.
Well, Congressman, as I've said, I think you've mentioned a number of state cases there. But as I've said, the reason why I am not going into the discussion I had and providing that particular level of information, although the FBI director did choose to do so, is that the information the team provides to me on this or any other case has to be given in a zone of confidentiality so that they can be clear and sure that there's never a political overtone to their decisions, nor will I apply one in accepting their decisions. That's why we have taken the unusual steps of providing greater information, as frustrating as that has been for a number of people to have additional information. That's why I took the unusual step of clarifying my role in this investigation.
Well, I'm out of time. The only thing I find frustrating is that even after this and Director Comey, people still believe that if you are famous, there's a different set of rules than if people don't know your name. And I think you're missing a wonderful opportunity to say with specificity which evidentiary element you found lacking. So Congress can go fix the statute if you think we need to. But right now, we have no idea whether or not a President Lynch could do exactly what Secretary Clinton did or whether President Clinton could do exactly what Secretary Clinton did. And I think that lack of clarity is bad for the Republic, quite frankly. I would yield back.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Recognizes the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Cicilline, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Attorney General, for being here and for your time. We are living in very difficult times where we see violence and guns continuing to plague our communities. And building communities of trust and respect are critical, and reducing the ability of dangerous individuals to easily access guns is part of the answer. What I really want to focus my inquiry on is the first part of that effort. And I was, before coming to Congress, mayor of Providence, and my former chief used to say the most powerful weapon in the police department in fighting crime and keeping communities safe is the trust and confidence of the people they serve. I've had the unfortunate occasion to both comfort families who lost a loved one to gun violence, mothers and fathers and siblings, as well as to, in April of 2005, to have lost a police officer to a shooting inside the Providence Police Station, Detective Jimmy Allen, which was a very painful experience for the city and for the department. Both of those examples are horrible and painful events, not capable of easy answers or quick fixes. But one thing that I found as mayor of the city is when I took over, we had a police department that was under investigation by the Department of Justice for a patterns and practice civil rights issues. And crime was on the increase, and the community had really lost confidence in the department. And as a result of implementing a citywide community policing model, we really rebuilt the confidence of the community. The department became accredited, remarkable turnaround, and we produced the lowest crime rate in 40 years. So it was an example of really investing in building relationships between the policing community, which made the police officers safer and made the community safer. And so what I really want to ask you about is what the Department of Justice or Congress can do to help that kind of thing happen in other cities around the country. There was a 2007 national survey of police leaders, and they identified insufficient resources and the support of frontline officers as the two major obstacles to implementing community policing models effectively. And I'd love your thoughts on what we can do as a Congress, what DOJ is doing to help close these gaps with local and state law enforcement agencies.
Well, thank you for raising this important issue, Congressman, one that has become central to my tenure as Attorney General. And I've had the privilege also of traveling to different communities, much like yours, Providence, that had a pattern in practice, and yet residents and police officers together determined that they would rebuild to a positive relationship. So, as you note, it can be done, it has been done, and I have seen it done. With respect to what the Department of Justice is doing, we are supporting the work of community policing around the country through our community-oriented policing service that provides technical assistance to police departments upon their request. One of the things that we try and do is match up police departments facing specific issues, crowd control, for example, a question about whether their excessive force policy really is sufficient. We try and pair them with police departments that have dealt with those issues and, in fact, come to a positive working relationship so that they can have a peer-to-peer connection, because there's a tremendous amount of positive police work being done in this country, and we need to spread that as well. We are also supporting, through COPS grants, local municipalities hiring additional officers and retaining those officers. Through supporting the recommendations of the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing, we're supporting a number of pillars, particularly officer safety and wellness. And I've been privileged to watch some outstanding training focusing on instilling in officers from the beginning of their time on duty that when they are encountering someone on the worst day of that civilian's life, they themselves need as much support and training as possible. The issue of resources is one that is raised with me a great deal with respect to officers and departments who want to set up wellness programs, who want to have a dedicated community policing officer, who want to expand their school resource officer program, and yet their municipalities are struggling to provide the resources. We try and help. Of course, assistance with that is always welcome. I'm happy to have our staff speak about ways in which we can work together on that.
Great. And just quickly, in connection with that, there was a 2006 Department of Justice report that found police academies spend an average of 110 hours training their recruits on firearm skills and self-defense, but only 8 hours on conflict management and mediation. And I'm wondering whether or not you think that's a sensible allocation and what can be done really to give a more balanced approach in the training, because that's obviously part of it. And I'm hoping that out of this difficult time that we are experiencing because of the tragedy in Dallas and the other shootings we're seeing around our country, that we can come together and respond to some of this. And I'd love your thoughts on that.
Thank you.
The time of the gentleman has expired, but the witness will be permitted to answer the question.
I believe that police departments around the country are looking at exactly that issue and trying to ensure that they have ongoing training in mediation, conflict resolution, most importantly de-escalation at the police academy, and also throughout the life of the sworn officers. I've been privileged to actually see some of the training given to on-duty officers as part of their continuing education.
Thank you, Madam Chair.